Application of the Eightfold Path in Life. Right mindfulness, foundation of all practices. Welcome back, everyone, to Mind Podcast. Right mindfulness is the spiritual compass of life, and it is the daily practice of all practitioners. In the Eightfold Path, the most important aspects are right view and right effort, followed by right mindfulness. When one possesses right mindfulness, the speech will always be compassionate, harmonious, cultured, and beneficial. When right mindfulness leads, the actions of the body will refrain from killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct, avoiding work-related accidents and traffic accidents. Right mindfulness helps to ensure lawful careers that are in accordance with the customs and culture of the local communities in which we live, making it an integral part of daily life. Right mindfulness is considered a firm foundation. Although it is the seventh factor, right mindfulness is regarded as the guiding principle for all behavioral methods and perception adjustments, directing human feelings into the orbit of righteousness. The result of this practice reaches the highest level. First, right mindfulness is the awareness of both the external and internal worlds, free from any emotional attachment, attitudes, or perception. Awareness of the external world is something that all of us experience almost 24 hours a day, 12 months a year. As long as humans are alive, awareness of the external world continues, even in the case of a fetus within the mother's womb. Babies begin to form their life instincts and are aware of the external world through their contact, their mother's body. This is the external world in this situation, the touch. The difference between a practitioner of mindfulness and someone who does not practice mindfulness lies in the contact. An ordinary person becomes attached, leading to two negative reactions, either craving for what feels agreeable, sweet, cute, comfortable, aligned with their individual and collective karma, or aversion to objects, situations, events, people, or contact that is unappealing, resulting in resentment, harm, exclusion, or retaliation. Right mindfulness is a process of adjusting one's perception, attitudes, and emotional responses, helping the individual avoid falling into these two extremes. As a result, the practitioner eliminates and overcomes greed and hatred, thus uprooting ignorance. In other words, by practicing right mindfulness, one is able to resolve much of the impurities of the body and mind. Internal right mindfulness. When it comes to the internal world, controlling one's thoughts and ideas is far more difficult. Most of the mind's deep activities are unconscious. Unconscious mind is like stealth aircraft, undetectable by radar unless highly advanced systems are in place. Unconscious thoughts are like covert agents. When there are careless thoughts or a lack of control over the mind, these agents appear and take over, making right mindfulness the victim of a coup, leading to spiritual problems. For these covert agents, we must create specific plans to subdue them. Establishing right mindfulness with the internal world primarily involves locking past experiences at the point of their origin, allowing circumstances and conditions that lead to existence, development, and effort to unfold naturally. Locking away these past experiences in the time and space where they originated helps the practitioner establish mindfulness. Poet Ho Zen once remembered his beautiful love and expressed it with these two lines: "That tender moment of first attachment, for 1,000 years, who could easily forget?" These are the beautiful images of an idealized love, where two hearts beat as one, sharing the same breath every turn of life. This fleeting attraction captivates the heart, being drawn in by appearance, voice, laughter, mannerisms, or the cultural background of the person loved. Most people, especially in their first love, find it difficult to forget these images. These images stay with them for life. This love is called idealized love. Anything idealized is not real, and holding on to idealized images in the mind kills the love that is present. Memory, or the brain's ability to remember, is not right mindfulness. If we do not bring memory back to its orbit and detach it from emotional responses like craving and anger, it is not mindfulness. Historians and scientists with brilliant memories are still not considered mindful. Mindfulness is not just focusing the mind. Artists in fields such as sculpture or painting concentrate deeply to create a masterpiece, and nearly all areas of research or lab experiments require high concentration, sometimes to the point of forgetting to eat or sleep. But this is still not mindfulness. This is simply concentration, an expression of one-pointedness, which is considered a foundation of mindfulness. Practice of right mindfulness. One-pointedness is the focus on one object. Buddhist one-pointedness has the power to liberate suffering and use the object as a means to transform the mind, which differs from the kind of focus seen in other arts or fields. Buddhist dictionaries often define mindfulness as tranquility, which means keeping the mind calm or looking inward in silence. Many people look inward, but the more they look, the more they suffer. For example, the author of the song The Ways of Life looked inward and lamented, reflecting on life through a shattered mirror. After so much turmoil, people tend to return to themselves. When we review our interactions, our social relationships, and our behavior in various circumstances, we clearly see the situation. Life is mostly without joy or happiness, filled with misfortune. Instead of reflecting on life through right mindfulness, grounded in the present moment, the author encouraged looking at life through the shadows of the past. Shadows are things of the past, not of the present, which is unfolding, which is, when we look at life through the lens of the past, all we see are unhappy experiences reflected through shattered mirrors. We have hundreds of intact mirrors, but by reflecting inward incorrectly, we only see distortions, errors, and dead ends. A shattered mirror distorts the face, and the objects reflected in such a mirror are broken, not true to their original form. Quiet reflection without proper awareness is still entangled in worldly attachment. This series of silent reflections leads to disillusionment, despair, and frustration. Mindfully observing both the external and internal worlds might seem easy, but in reality, the depth of mindfulness goes much further. We must observe without attachment, becoming aware and reflecting on the real world as it is. Only then can it be called right mindfulness. One-pointedness in Buddhism, as mentioned, has the ability to free one from suffering and to use objects as tools to transform the mind. This is different from the kind of focus in the arts or other field. The Buddhist dictionaries often define mindfulness as tranquility, which means to maintain a calm mind or to reflect inwardly with a clear mind. Many people look inward, but the more they look, the more they suffer. For example, the author of the song The Ways of Life looked inward and lamented, reflecting on life through a shattered mirror. After so many ups and downs in life, people tend to turn back to themselves. They watch their social interactions, conduct in relationships, and they see clearly that in most cases, life is not filled with joy and happiness, but instead with misfortune. Instead of reflecting on life through right mindfulness, focusing on its present reality, they reflect through the shadows of the past. Shadows belong to the past, not the present, which is still ongoing and is. When we observe life through the lens of the past, what we perceive are only the unhappy experiences and the flawed understanding we hold in our broken mental mirrors. We have many healthy mirrors, but when we focus on the wrong methods of reflection, everything appears distorted, flawed, blocked. A shattered mirror distorts the reflection of the face, and the objects reflected in that mirror are broken too, not their true form. Quiet reflection without proper insight causes people to become trapped in attachments to the world. Transcending through mindfulness. Right mindfulness, in its essence, means to observe and remain aware of the external and internal worlds in their true form, without being attached to them through emotions or biases. Right mindfulness helps free the mind from attachment to the two extremes of craving and hatred. When there is mindfulness, the body and mind are purified to a significant degree. Practicing mindfulness is about living fully in the present moment, not entangled by the past or the future. People often misunderstand this, believing that practicing mindfulness means being irresponsible. But in truth, mindfulness means living dynamically, energetically, joyfully, and free from attachment to results. Mindfulness acts as a way of neutralizing emotional reactions, helping us see the nature of suffering, happiness, and the neutral state in life. Practitioners must focus on emotional detachment to overcome the grip of desires and ill will. Through this process, one uproots ignorance, right mindfulness, and fear. Fear is often the foundation of many negative mental states and is a serious obstacle to mindfulness. Fear manifests in physical reactions like trembling, a racing heart, shortness of breath, and anxiety. Without addressing fear, one cannot effectively practice mindfulness. Mindfulness also involves transforming negative emotional energy like fear into a calm state of awareness. By confronting fear directly, practitioners are able to dissolve it. A mindful person is free from fear, able to observe everything happening inside and outside themselves without becoming attached. In the Pali Canon and the Mahayana scriptures, mindfulness is taught in four main categories: body, feelings, mind, and mental object. 16 methods of breath meditation focus on mindfulness of the body, while there are other methods focusing on feelings, mind, and dharma, mental objects, for developing joy and happiness. A common meditation involves observing one's breath, becoming aware of how it moves in and out of the body, calming the mind and purifying. This practice helps practitioners overcome sickness and achieve longevity. Mindfulness in daily activity. Mindfulness of breath should not only be practiced during meditation. During short breaks of 15 or 30 minutes after 2 hours of work, instead of engaging in idle conversation, one could use this time to walk mindfully, activating the muscles and senses, breathing deeply while observing the sky or clouds. This helps relax the body and mind, making one feel better after the break. Practicing mindful breathing at these moments gives the body and mind a chance to reset and refresh. Mindful breathing brings health and clarity. Before exams or other important tasks, a brief 15-minute session of mindful breathing can clear the mind and improve performance. When Barack Obama ran for president, a famous photo of him meditating before an important meeting was shared widely on the internet, even though he is a Christian. This shows how mindfulness was key to his clear thinking and calm demeanor. When we observe the breath deeply, it calms the mind and brings clarity, much like how still water in a glass will allow any particles to settle at the bottom. Similarly, mindful breathing purifies the mind, making it more stable and tranquil. Mindfulness in movement. Practitioners must also be mindful in their movements, walking, standing, sitting, and lying down. Even during sleep, one should observe the body and its sensations. Mindfulness in movement is cultivated by recognizing the physical body's actions with awareness. For example, the Theravada Buddhist centers in Myanmar practice long, slow movements in meditation to the point where the walk appears unnaturally slow. In the Pali Canon and Mahayana texts, the Buddha did not advise walking at such an exaggeratedly slow pace, but rather encouraged mindfulness in natural movements. A moderate walking pace is best. Walking too slowly may seem awkward, while walking too quickly can lead to a loss of mindfulness as one is rushing to keep up with time. The Buddha's instructions are not based on time or speed, but on awareness. Walking too fast disconnects one from the present, turning the body into a machine for chasing time or task. Parents should teach their children mindfulness in movement from a young age, particularly in their posture when walking, standing, sitting, and lying down. This contributes to their overall grace and dignity. When boys walk confidently and steadily, or when girls walk with modesty and elegance, their inner and outer beauty is naturally enhanced. Mindfulness of the body's impurities. One essential practice in Buddhism is contemplating the body's impurities. The Buddha taught that the body is composed of 36 impure elements, including hair, nails, skin, bones, blood, and internal organs. These elements are viewed as defiling the body, leading to attachment and ignorance. By contemplating the body's impurities, practitioners weaken their attachment to the physical form. The Buddha analyzed the body's composition into 4 basic elements: earth, water, air, and fire. Earth represents the body's solidity, water its fluids, air its breath, and fire its temperature. Without these 4 elements, life cannot continue. Contemplating this helps the practitioner develop a sense of impermanence and non-attachment to the body. Ultimately, contemplation of the body also involves understanding its decay. From the moment of death, the body begins to decompose, turning blue, swelling, becoming foul-smelling, and decaying, eventually leaving only bones or ashes. Reflecting on this process helps the practitioner realize that the body is nothing more than a bag of impurities and is not to be worshipped like a deity. Western societies have developed a fixation on the body's appearance, health, and insurance policies. This has led to a culture of fear, where people insure almost every aspect of their physical bodies. In contrast, in countries like Vietnam or Cambodia, where people live in poverty, fear of illness or death is much less pronounced. Mindfulness in fearlessness. Those who practice mindfulness and develop fearlessness live calmly and serenely. Fear of losing the body, fear of death, or fear of suffering holds people back, making them unable to live freely. A person who overcomes fear lives without hesitation, ready to meet life's challenges without worry or attachment. For example, monks who practice fearlessness, like the Dalai Lama, live without needing excessive security measures, even though they lead spiritual movements worldwide. They have learned to be mindful of the body and accept impermanence, freeing themselves from the fear of death. Contemplating the body's impurities. We need to contemplate the impure components of the body, which the Buddha called the 36 elements of filth, including hair, teeth, nails, skin, flesh, cells, marrow, liver, kidneys, etc. All of these are considered defiling substances because they are impure, causing the practitioner to avoid attachment. The Buddha analyzed the formation of the body into 4 principles: solid, earth, liquid, water, movement, air, and heat, fire. The solid elements consist of cells and atoms that form the body. The liquid elements include blood, pus, sweat, and other fluids in the body. Movement refers to the breath going in and out. Heat refers to the body's internal and external temperatures. Without these 4 principles, life ceases. Reflecting clearly on this leads to an understanding of non-self, anatta, and thus the practice of detachment automatically arises. Finally, contemplating the body helps us see the stages of its decay. From the moment of death, the body begins to change colors, blue or gray, swell, smell foul, decompose, and be consumed by insects until only bones or ashes remain. These processes show that the body is merely a stinking sack of flesh and should not be worshipped as a god. Western society has capitalized on the fear and importance people place on their bodies, creating an entire industry around health insurance, dental, vision, and more. If someone insures their body parts, each time an accident occurs, compensation is provided for those parts. The more people buy into insurance, the greater their fear grows. Poorer countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, or parts of Africa, where people live in hardship, have less concern about such things. However, when people from these countries immigrate to wealthier places like the United States or Europe, and live there for about 3 years, their fear of illness begins to resemble that of the locals. They fear diseases, fear everything, and feel the need to insure everything. Insurance is nearly half of people's total income, giving them a false sense of safety. In Buddhist practice, monks don't fear such things. The Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of Tibet, only has 2 bodyguards as required by the Indian government. While it is important to have these guards, it is not necessary for peace of mind. The Pope travels in a bulletproof vehicle for protection, ensuring safety at the highest level. Similarly, when world leaders like President Bill Clinton visited Vietnam, the security forces had to arrive half a month early to assess the airports, roads, and install security measures everywhere. Despite this sense of safety, it is fear that drives this behavior. Those who practice fearlessness, like Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, live serenely. People who live fearlessly will not die from fear. Those who are afraid tend to die because fear causes them to lose control of their actions. For example, people who are afraid while crossing the street often hesitate, making them more likely to get hit by a vehicle. In contrast, someone who does not fear waits calmly for the car to pass before crossing safely. This kind of mindfulness in physical actions helps keep us safe. Practicing mindfulness of the body makes us upright individuals. This kind of dignity is referred to as solemn beauty. Monks, in particular, should practice this way from the first day of becoming novices in the temple. Those trained well in dignity and mindfulness of the body from a young age grow to be distinguished in their conduct. For example, a novice who serves as an attendant to their teacher, cleaning the temple, fanning, or massaging their teacher, is trained in mindfulness and becomes dignified. In temples that do not train novices properly, even after 5 or 7 years, they may not have learned much. Mindfulness of feelings. We must contemplate 3 aspects of feelings: their arising, their development, and their cessation. Feelings are caused by certain situations, contexts, conditions, or emotions that appear, leading to either craving for pleasant things or aversion toward unpleasant things. To transcend them, we must recognize the causes that lead to their emergence. Many people mistakenly try to suppress their feelings, thinking they have overcome them. But over time, repressed emotions will resurface like hungry ghosts. The more one is attached to their feelings, the harder it is to release them. Suppression and repression are not forms of transformation, nor are they solution. By contemplating the arising of feelings, we can clearly see how feelings always flow in the direction of least resistance, attaching themselves to objects that are pleasing to the eye, ear, nose, tongue, or body. Pleasant feelings become like magnets that draw everything toward them, making it difficult to let go. For example, tar on the road sticks to the stones, making it nearly impossible to separate them. Similarly, when we develop feelings of desire through pleasant stimuli, it becomes challenging to detach. To deal with this, practitioners must observe their feelings as they are, without becoming attached. Mastering emotions. Practicing mindfulness in a city environment can be more difficult than in remote, secluded areas. City life is filled with distractions, and pleasant surroundings can easily draw the mind into attachment. Monks who practice in the city are said to be descending from the mountain and are meant to serve the world. Before one is ready to descend from the mountain, they must spend 5 to 7 years in training, which is called ascending the mountain, in order to build enough spiritual strength to face the distractions of the world. In reality, the term ascending the mountain does not necessarily mean going to a physical mountain. It refers to a period of focused spiritual training, while descending the mountain refers to returning to society to serve the world. Even the Buddha himself engaged in this practice daily, both in the literal and metaphorical sense. The Buddha lived on Vulture Peak Mountain, but every day he would descend into the city of Rajagaha to gather alms, give teachings, and then return to the mountain afterward. This daily rhythm of ascending and descending was essential for maintaining spiritual balance. Observing anger and hatred. Reflecting on the emotion of anger, we begin to understand how we react to unpleasant situations, events, or people that do not meet our expectations. Many people believe they have let go of their anger toward minor things, such as a child or subordinate making a mistake. But this may only be because they perceive the mistake as insignificant, and therefore, they overlook it. However, when the person making the mistake is an adult or someone more experienced, their tolerance often disappears. Anger arises. Anger can arise in two forms: outward expression or internal resentment. Even if one does not outwardly express their anger, the internal bitterness or hatred can still persist. Anger is one of the most difficult emotions to master, especially when it turns into deep-seated resentment. When a person suppresses their anger, they may appear calm, but deep down, the seeds of bitterness remain. Mastery over hatred. Contemplating resentment and anger, practitioners realize that overcoming these emotions is key to true liberation. Suppression of anger is not enough. True mastery involves letting go of the deep-rooted causes of anger and resentment. When a person holds onto a grudge, they may suppress their feelings temporarily, but eventually those feelings resurface, often in unexpected ways. Only by observing the arising of anger with mindfulness can one overcome it. Mastery of anger and resentment is one of the hardest tasks in the practice of right mindfulness, but it is essential for attaining inner peace. Overcoming resentment is a critical part of freeing oneself from emotional bondage. Resentment often lurks beneath the surface, appearing in subtle ways. Many people suppress their anger toward others, but that anger can resurface later in more dangerous forms. To truly free ourselves from resentment, we must confront its root causes and learn to dissolve the underlying emotions. Letting go of resentment frees the mind, and only then can the practitioner experience true peace. Hatred is even more dangerous, manifesting as a general disdain or contempt for someone or something. While it may not always be outwardly expressed, it can linger inside the mind, creating negative thoughts and feelings that harm both oneself and others. Overcoming hatred requires mindful reflection on the feelings of anger and bitterness, observing their origins and working toward letting them go. By transforming hatred into understanding and compassion, one can attain liberation. Hindrances to mindfulness, sloth and torpor. Sloth and torpor are often referred to as the twin brothers of laziness. These mental states prevent clarity of mind and lead to a state of dullness or lethargy. Sloth is a state of mental laziness, where the mind lacks clarity and decisiveness. It causes a person to become indecisive, constantly overthinking and failing to make clear decisions. Torpor is a physical condition where the body feels drained of energy, leading to drowsiness or fatigue. This may even manifest in symptoms like sleep paralysis, where one feels unable to move or wake up properly. Both sloth and torpor are obstacles to mindfulness because they cloud the mind and body, making it difficult to practice with clarity. Practitioners who struggle with these hindrances may find themselves caught in a cycle of lethargy and mental confusion. Overcoming these obstacles requires mindfulness, physical exercise, and an active effort to engage the mind in positive activities. Restoring physical and mental health is essential for overcoming sloth and torpor. Hindrance of restlessness and worry. Restlessness manifests both physically and mentally. A person may pace back and forth, fidget, or struggle to sit still. Restlessness of the mind causes a person to be unable to focus, constantly jumping from one thought to the next. This mental agitation prevents concentration and mindfulness. Restlessness often arises from worry and anxiety. When the mind is preoccupied with future concerns or past regrets, it is unable to remain in the present moment. Mindfulness of restlessness involves observing the sensations in the body and the flow of thoughts in the mind, without becoming attached to them. Over time, mindfulness helps to calm the mind, allowing the practitioner to overcome restlessness and achieve a state of peace. Overcoming skepticism and doubt. Skepticism, often a close companion of sloth and torpor, arises from a lack of confidence in the teachings of the Buddha, in oneself, or in the law of karma and rebirth. Doubt leads to indecision and fear, preventing one from fully committing to the practice of mindfulness. This mental hesitation disrupts the flow of concentration and mindfulness, causing the mind to waver between belief and disbelief. Doubt must be addressed by reflecting on the teachings of the Buddha, gaining confidence through understanding the principles of cause and effect, and trusting in the path of practice. The more one engages in mindfulness practice, the clearer the mind becomes, allowing skepticism and doubt dissolve naturally. 5 lower fetters. The Buddha taught that to fully liberate the mind, one must overcome the 5 lower fetters that bind us to the cycle of suffering. These 5 fetters are sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness, and doubt. Sensual desire includes craving for pleasure, wealth, and material possessions, while ill will includes anger, hatred, and resentment toward others. By practicing right mindfulness, one can transcend these fetters and move toward higher spiritual states. Each fetter must be addressed mindfully, with a focus on understanding its root causes and working toward letting them go. Mindfulness allows us to see clearly how these fetters manifest in our daily lives and provides the tools to break free from their hold. Observing the mind. Mindfulness of the mind involves observing the different states of the mind, such as happiness, sadness, anger, and calmness. The mind is often compared to a river, constantly flowing with different thoughts and emotions. Through mindfulness, we can observe these mental states without becoming attached to them. We can see the impermanent nature of thoughts and emotions, allowing us to respond more skillfully to life's challenges. The mind can be divided into many pairs of opposites: good and bad, positive and negative, greedy and generous, angry and joyful, ignorant and wise. These dualities often dominate our thinking, causing us to waver between extremes. Practicing mindfulness helps to transcend these dualities, allowing the mind to rest in a state of equanimity. The 5 hindrances in mindfulness. The 5 hindrances, sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and doubt, are obstacles that prevent the mind from attaining clarity and concentration. To overcome these hindrances, one must practice mindfulness and reflect on the impermanent nature of all things. The hindrances cloud the mind and obstruct the path to liberation, but through consistent mindfulness practice, they can be transcended. Practicing mindfulness of feelings. Mindfulness of feelings involves observing the sensations and emotions that arise in the body and mind. These sensations may be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. By observing them without attachment, practitioner gains insight into the nature of suffering and the path to liberation. Feelings are transient and impermanent, constantly arising and passing away. By observing feelings mindfully, we begin to see their true nature and let go of our attachment to them. Mindfulness of the mind. The mind encompasses a range of states, wholesome and unwholesome, positive and negative, greedy and generous, angry and joyful, ignorant and wise. These contrasting states of mind often dominate our thinking, pulling us toward one extreme or the other. Practicing mindfulness of the mind involves recognizing these states without being carried away by them. By observing the mind's tendencies, we can cultivate a more balanced, neutral perspective known as equanimity. The mind is prone to shifting between dualities, leading us to jump between positive and negative thoughts, feelings, and emotion. For example, we may hear one person speak and agree with them, only to hear another opinion and find that it also seems valid, leaving us confused and unable to take a firm stance. This back-and-forth thinking creates instability and uncertainty. Mindfulness of the mind allows us to cultivate decisiveness without being rigid. A mindful mind can see clearly, with direct intuition, aligning with the natural principles of the universe, karma, and cause and effect. As practitioners progress in their spiritual practice, their ability to transcend mental confusion and instability increases. Mindfulness of the 5 lower fetters. The 5 lower fetters, sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and doubt, are obstacles that bind practitioners to the lower realms of suffering. The practice of mindfulness is essential for overcoming these fetters. Each fetter reflects a form of mental or emotional attachment. It keeps the mind entangled in the cycle of birth and death, samsara. For example, sensual desire encompasses not only cravings for physical pleasure, but also attachment to material possessions, comfort, and indulgence. Ill will includes both outward expressions of anger and internal resentments or grudges that we may hold against others. By practicing mindfulness, we can gradually weaken these fetters, freeing the mind from their grip. Mindfulness helps us see the transient nature of sensual desires and the futility of harboring ill will, leading us to a more peaceful, liberated state of being. Practicing mindfulness of emotions. Practicing mindfulness of emotions helps us navigate the highs and lows of life without being overwhelmed by them. Emotions like joy, sadness, anger, and fear arise and pass away in the mind, often leaving us feeling powerless to control them. By practicing mindfulness, we can observe these emotions as they arise, without becoming attached or reacting impulsively. For example, when anger arises, the mindful practitioner notices the physical and mental sensations associated with the emotion: a racing heart, tightened muscles, or hot flashes. Rather than suppressing or acting out of anger, the practitioner simply observes it and lets it pass naturally, without clinging to it. In this way, mindfulness serves as a powerful tool for emotional regulation, helping us to respond more skillfully to life's challenges. Mindfulness of the body. Mindfulness of the body is a fundamental practice in Buddhism. It involves observing the physical sensations in the body, such as the breath, movements, postures, and sensations of warmth or coldness. This practice allows us to stay connected to the present moment, preventing the mind from wandering too far into thoughts about the past or future. By paying attention to the body, we can cultivate a sense of groundedness and stability. For example, mindful breathing, observing the breath as it enters and leaves the body, is a simple yet powerful way to bring the mind back to the present moment. Other practices, such as walking meditation, involve mindfulness of the body's movements, helping to develop a deeper sense of awareness of our actions and their effects. Practicing the 4 foundations of mindfulness. The Buddha taught that mindfulness should be developed in 4 areas: body, feelings, mind, and dharmas, mental object. These 4 foundations of mindfulness provide a comprehensive framework for understanding and transforming the mind. 1. Mindfulness of the body, kaya, observing the body in all its aspects: breathing, postures, movements, and sensations. This practice helps us to stay grounded in the present moment and cultivate awareness of the physical body. 2. Mindfulness of feelings, vedana, observing pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings as they arise and pass away. This practice helps us to see the impermanence of feelings and to let go of attachment to them. 3. Mindfulness of the mind, citta, observing the different states of the mind, such as happiness, sadness, anger, and calmness. This practice helps us to understand the nature of the mind and to cultivate a state of equanimity. 4. Mindfulness of dharmas, dhamma. Observing the mental objects that arise in the mind, such as thoughts, perceptions, and concepts. This practice helps us to see the conditioned nature of mental objects and to develop insight into the nature of reality. By practicing mindfulness in these 4 areas, we can develop a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us, leading to greater peace and liberation. Conclusion. Path of mindfulness. Mindfulness is not just a mental exercise, but a way of living that permeates all aspects of life. By cultivating mindfulness of the body, feelings, mind, and dharmas, we can learn to navigate the complexities of life with clarity, compassion, and wisdom. Practice of mindfulness helps us to overcome the 5 hindrances and fetters that bind us to suffering, allowing us to progress on the path toward enlightenment. Mindfulness transforms the way we see ourselves in the world, leading to a state of peace, freedom, and equanimity. By practicing mindfulness in everyday life, we can live more fully in the present moment, free from the distractions and attachments that cause suffering. Ultimately, mindfulness is the key to awakening, leading us on the path to liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Practicing the mindfulness of dharmas. Mindfulness of dharmas involves observing mental objects and phenomena that arise in the mind. These include thoughts, emotions, ideas, and beliefs. Practicing mindfulness of dharmas helps practitioners gain insight into the conditioned nature of these mental objects and see how they are impermanent and dependent on causes and conditions. Through mindful observation, we begin to see that nothing in our mental experience has an inherent, independent existence. Everything is subject to change and transformation. The practice of mindfulness of dharmas is also deeply connected to understanding the 4 noble truths, the fundamental teachings of the Buddha. By observing our mental states, we come to understand the truth of suffering, dukkha, the causes of suffering, the possibility of its cessation, and the path leading to the cessation of suffering. This understanding deepens through continued practice of mindfulness, eventually leading to wisdom, prajna, and liberation. Mindfulness and wisdom. As we practice mindfulness, we gradually develop wisdom, the ability to see things as they truly are. This wisdom allows us to penetrate the nature of reality and realize the truths of impermanence, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and non-self, anatta. With wisdom, we are no longer fooled by appearances or caught in the cycle of desire and aversion. Instead, we are able to see the interdependent nature of all things and live with greater freedom and compassion. Mindfulness is the foundation for developing wisdom. By paying close attention to the body, feelings, mind, and dharmas, we sharpen our awareness and deepen our understanding of the true nature of reality. This understanding helps us to let go of attachment and aversion, allowing us to live with greater ease and equanimity. Final thoughts on mindfulness practice. Mindfulness is a practice that requires dedication and consistency. It is not something that can be achieved overnight, but rather a lifelong journey of self-discovery and transformation. By practicing mindfulness in every aspect of our lives, whether through meditation, mindful breathing, or simply paying attention to our actions, we gradually cultivate a deeper awareness and understanding of ourselves and the world around us. As we develop mindfulness, we learn to let go of the attachments and aversions that cause suffering, and we open ourselves to the possibility of living a more peaceful, compassionate, and liberated life. Practice of mindfulness is a powerful tool for personal growth, helping us to navigate the challenges of life with wisdom, clarity, and compassion. Application of the Noble Eightfold Path in life. Right livelihood, establishing a righteous career. Welcome back everyone to Mind Podcast. When discussing the importance of the Noble Eightfold Path, most emphasize right view, which includes perspectives on the 4 foundations of mindfulness, karma, and the 4 noble truths. Actions of body, speech, and mind must align with ethical standards, providing a foundation for wisdom to arise. The precedence of right view is compared in scriptures to the sun rising in the morning, marking the beginning of a new day. The essential foundation for attaining right view and all other aspects of the path lies in the 5th element, establishing a career. In Mahayana scriptures, the Buddha clearly states that individuals engaged in professions that violate or exist outside the law cannot develop wisdom or morality. Such individuals may deceive others or themselves, living in constant fear due to illegal activities. In the Noble Eightfold Path, the Buddha outlines each aspect in 2 levels. The first level involves regular practice, leading to the accumulation of merit and a stable life built upon that merit, which is the primary goal for most lay people. The second level involves using the Noble Eightfold Path to develop morality, concentration, and wisdom, leading to spiritual enlightenment, with nirvana as the ultimate goal. This path is primarily for monastics and some lay people who are detached from worldly life or uninterested in earthly happiness. Righteous career establishment is more significant than the popular notion of settled living in the phrase peaceful dwelling and successful career. Peaceful dwelling implies stable living conditions without the need to move, allowing for a stable profession that brings happiness. Righteous career establishment inherently includes these elements and extends to morality, legality, and proper understanding. In the past, religious texts often referred to the monastic life of Buddhist monks as engaging in a religious profession, mistakenly treating monastic life as a mere occupation. This concept misrepresents the spiritual values that dedicated monastics invest in and share with society. Calling it a profession implies a two-way transaction governed by market or state mechanisms, where profit is a consideration. However, monastic life is not about seeking profit like a professional occupation. A worker, whether a regular employee or a CEO, receives a salary based on performance and contribution, but this is not the case for monastic. Many monks work tirelessly to build temples for the community's practice without personal gain. To complete these religious duties, some monks incur debts that take decades to repay, even though the average human lifespan is only about 70 years. In summary, the inappropriate description of monastics as engaging in a religious profession misrepresents the relationship between monks and the community. Making wisdom one's career. What constitutes a righteous career for monastics? From the Pali Canon to the Agamas and Mahayana scriptures, all affirm that a monastic's righteousness in Buddhist life lies in the thorough and complete cultivation of morality, concentration, and wisdom. In Vietnamese culture, particularly within the Pure Land school, there is a saying, reciting the Amitabha Sutra will ensure a lifetime of sustenance, implying that assisting with funerals helps strengthen the spiritual bond between monastics and lay people. Monastics performing such duties need not worry about food or clothing, as the deceased's family members will make offerings to the temple. However, merely reciting sutras contributes only a small part to developing wisdom. Memorizing sutras may secure a position, but one's position remains stable and long-lasting only if one possesses pure morality, because the core of monastic life lies in moral conduct. According to the Noble Eightfold Path, practitioner is considered truly righteous only if they possess morality, concentration, and wisdom, with wisdom being the most crucial element. In the Digha Nikaya, the Buddha teaches, only wisdom is the true career, meaning wisdom is the career of a monastic. Those with wisdom inherently possess morality, personality, and the selfless, altruistic spiritual values that characterize the path. Anyone who lives and acts with wisdom is bound to have concentration. For lay people, righteous career establishment is expressed in various ways, with society offering thousands of occupations. Instead of listing suitable professions, the Buddha chose to exclude certain careers, deeming those left as righteous. This exclusion method is concise and easy to remember, as new occupations continue to emerge with the evolution of history, science, technology, and society. New professions, such as stock trading, didn't exist 100 years ago, and 100 years from now, professions we can't even imagine today may emerge, like selling tickets for lunar tourism. This profession could involve ticket sales, lunar tours, associated services, and more. 5 types of professions are listed as unrighteous, regardless of whether the person engaging in them is a disciple of the Buddha. These are considered unrighteous even though most national laws permit them. The limitation of the law is that it does not commit to or guarantee the development of morality and positive karma for those who build a career on these professions. Conversely, there are many occupations prohibited by law, although they may not be entirely wrong from a legal perspective. Ethical values and the law of karma always transcend the conventional and relative values of the law. The law depends on political consciousness in a specific historical period and is influenced by ideologies or political parties. Additionally, the law is subject to the customs, traditions, and religious culture of each nation. The law does not have the capacity to ensure that merely following the law will lead to a moral life. In short, ethics is a concept that transcends the law. Weapons trade countries involved in the weapons trade are wealthier than average nations. The United States is the most famous for producing and trading weapons. The Bush family's political party developed the national economy through arms sales. Every time a war or U.S. intervention occurs globally, various weapons are introduced. When countries receive arms supplies from the U.S., it means the U.S. already has more advanced weapons. Even if those countries use American weapons against the U.S., they will still lose. Major nations often profit from weapons, uranium, and nuclear weapons, or from using nuclear power for scientific purposes, making them very wealthy. Currently, some nations are on this path, challenging the world. Recent negotiations with such a nation seem futile. Iran is also accused by Western public opinion of having tendencies toward developing this field. The Buddha prohibited the weapons trade because it causes destruction, death, devastation, injury, stalemates, hatred, and severe economic paralysis, both nationally and internationally. A nation without war is a happy nation. Vietnam's history, marked by many wars for national defense, made the country poorer than others with similar advantages in resources and manpower. How much money did we have to spend on wars to protect the country's independence and borders? Producing weapons incites wars. Hence, both production and trade of weapons should be prohibited. As the world progresses, it becomes increasingly clear that returning to the spirit of Buddhism is better for humanity. Globally, there is a growing call for disarmament and the elimination of weapons, including nuclear disarmament, international bans on missiles with powerful destructive capabilities, and the abolition of chemical weapons and other types of arms. Eventually, as human minds evolve positively, weapons will no longer be seen as tools for maintaining peace. Human trafficking. Human trafficking is understood in two ways: trafficking in slaves and human beings. Newspapers report cases where mothers lacking 3 or 5 million VND sold their children for 6 million VND, or older brothers sold their siblings for 3 million VND. Such degradation of human dignity is truly terrible, cruel, and inhumane. Human life is priceless. The Buddha said, "Even if you carry your father on your left shoulder and your mother on your right shoulder for 1,000 miles and 1,000 lifetimes, cannot repay the debt of their upbringing." The creation of life is invaluable and cannot be measured by money, yet some people are willing to sell what is considered the fruit of love for 5 or 7 million VND. In many countries, human trafficking still exists. In some places, wives are still considered the property of their husband. In poor families, the husband can sell his wife and children. The Buddha has strictly forbidden this since ancient times. Working in brothels or selling sex for both men and women is another form of human trafficking. This profession is banned because it leads people to indulge in sensual pleasures, decline in moral life, neglect responsibility for maintaining family happiness, increase risks, and spread deadly diseases like HIV and AIDS, which are the scourge of the 20th century. Indulgence makes people addicted and lose happiness. Those engaged in this profession mostly exploit their physical appearance. Building a career on such exploitation is not considered a righteous career. Selling animals and meat. This category includes the livestock industry, as farming leads to the trading of animal products and meat. This industry involves 3 main activities: farming, trading, and slaughtering. Today, scientists have proven some alarming truths. For instance, every 454 grams, 1 pound, of meat produced for human consumption equals the loss of 5 to 12 square meters of arable land due to the need to grow crops for livestock feed, leading to the destruction of primary forests and farmland. Additionally, every 454 grams of produced requires 20,500 gallons of water. significantly impacting freshwater resources and releasing 270 kilograms of CO2 into the atmosphere, causing air, soil, and water pollution. Moreover, the karma of killing leads to decreased health and lifespan due to the accumulation of anger from slaughtered livestock, which is passed on to the consumers, making them irritable, angry, and reducing their spiritual vitality. Not to mention the direct harm to the seed of compassion. Butchers earn very little, but the karma of killing is immense. Those who sell birds and fish for release ceremonies also share in this karma. Once, monks encountered a woman selling birds for release. She told them, "Monks, please buy these 100 birds. If you don't buy them today, they might die tomorrow." The monks advised her to quit this job and find another way to make a living. She responded, "If I don't do this, where will monks and Buddhists get birds for release?" People in this profession evoke sympathy from Buddhists who feel sorry for the birds and fish and purchase them. The monks understand more than lay people and sympathize not only with the birds and fish, but also with those who sell them for release. If Buddhists did not express their compassion through releasing birds and fish, certainly no one would engage in this profession, and the creatures would die naturally according to the process of birth, aging, illness, and death. Selling intoxicant. Another profession that is prohibited is the trade of intoxicating substances like alcohol, beer, tobacco, ecstasy, drugs, heroin, etc. While the world today bans drugs and substances derived from them, alcohol, beer, and tobacco are not banned but are not encouraged, as evidenced by the ban on tobacco advertising in most countries. Turkey is the first country to ban smoking in public places, meaning anywhere with 2 or more people. It is likely that within 50 years, about 75% of the world will follow Turkey's lead. As tobacco smoke contains at least 50 different toxins, directly or indirectly causing many serious diseases like cancer, lung disease, cardiovascular issues, and strokes. Many countries have not been as strict as Turkey because the alcohol and tobacco industries contribute significant tax revenue. In Vietnam, these 2 industries generate substantial revenue. The Buddha advises that all intoxicating substances which cause loss of mental control should be banned. Selling poison. Poisons come in 2 forms, those that can cause death if ingested, and insecticides used to kill pests, despite the fact that killing insects protects plants, food, and crops, ensuring a sufficient livelihood for humans. However, killing insects also means destroying other species, which is relatively significant. Without those who sell pesticides, we might lack the grains and vegetables needed for survival. Those who engage in this profession may earn high profits. The karma they accumulate is not light. In summary, these 5 categories of profession, any involvement with them, even just approving or colluding, are strictly prohibited. The profession of superstition. In the Digha Nikaya, Book 2, the Buddha advises monastics to avoid professions like geomancy, astrology, fortune-telling, and other forms of divination, often referred to as the superstition industry. The Buddha forbade these professions because of the high psychological dependence of those who use such services, leading to more harm than good. Causes people to lose confidence in their ability to solve their problems. While we cannot entirely restrict these professions, even analyzing cause and effect in social professions to solve problems is influenced by factors like feng shui. In fact, some families experiencing difficulties do not analyze social, family, or individual causes, but blame feng shui or other factors rooted in superstition. Worse, they may commit bad karma by blaming ancestral spirits or deceased relatives. The Buddha said there is no situation where the deceased influence the living. Some believe that merely changing the direction of a door, altar, kitchen, bedroom, or living room can make everything go smoothly. This is an exaggeration of feng shui's effect. In reality, feng shui is just the science of arrangement, the art of using colors and objects in a reasonable way to create a comfortable and convenient environment for users. Feng shui cannot create success, failure, wealth, poverty, happiness, or suffering, as many mistakenly believe. Some people believe that human life depends on a particular star. This belief is entirely baseless, unscientific, and goes against the principle of cause and effect. Regarding professions like physiognomy, palmistry, dream interpretation, and omens, the Buddha did not deny their scientific validity. but thoroughly analyze the negative psychological dependence of those who believe in them or practice them, especially when some individuals exploit the superstitious beliefs of their followers to make money. Talented masters in these fields often do not live long. Few live past 60 because these professions are unrighteous. Those who seek their services feel psychologically dependent, fearful, and anxious, and whenever they encounter a problem, they rush to consult their master, paying a high fee. In fact, temples engaging in such activities are thriving. Even politicians seek advice to stay in power longer. Wealthy individuals also seek advice to maintain their wealth and prosperity. No profession or individual is exempt from needing the consultation of experts in these fields. The Buddha encourages sharing the Dharma and the law of cause and effect with those in these professions to help them live more righteously. Excluding bad, negative, or illegal professions that violate the principles of Buddhism and wisdom, all other professions are considered righteous. To ensure that a righteous career leads to a stable and successful life, the Anguttara Nikaya, Book 4, page 283, teaches us the skills necessary to manage our finances, much like a jeweler carefully measures and weighs gold, because the unit of measurement for gold is tiny, unlike other commodities. We must carefully balance our spending and income so that we are neither wasteful nor stingy. Doing so makes us responsible financial managers for ourselves and our family, ensuring a stable and successful life. Offering and Buddhist activities. Developing good skills in financial management helps us control our careers and spending, avoiding debt and the need to break the law. Some people, motivated by faith, borrow money to fund Buddhist activities. Buddha does not encourage or endorse this. We heard of a Buddhist who sold a house worth over 800 million VND, then used 750 million VND to fund religious ceremonies in Hue and Hanoi. This brought much praise and joy from others, but no one else would do the same. Such behavior is reckless. The Buddha teaches that income or profit should be divided into 4 parts. 1/4 for filial piety to parents, 1/4 for personal expenses, 1/4 for savings, and 1/4 for charity. In modern times, paying taxes is a form of charity, and any surplus can be used for additional charity work. There should be no case where one has no profession, sells their house, and then rents a room for 800,000 VN a month, causing family members to lose respect for Buddhism and its monastic. We do not know who advised this person, but both the advisor and the one who followed the advice misunderstood the concept of perfection through giving. They gave away all their assets. The Buddha also teaches in the Dhammapada that monks, when receiving offerings, should be like bees collecting nectar from flowers without harming their fragrance or color. Similarly, charity and Buddhist activities should not negatively impact the lives of those making the offering. Those who give recklessly make monks feel deeply uneasy. Therefore, they must act correctly according to the Buddha's teaching, ensuring that the family's financial stability and the happiness of its members are not compromised. It is undoubtedly wrong to give money one doesn't have, and borrowing money to donate is even more inappropriate. On the other hand, those with wealth who are stingy in doing good deeds or supporting Buddhist activities are at the opposite extreme. The Medicine Buddha Sutra describes such individuals as feeling as if a razor blade is slicing through their bones and marrow when spending money on themselves, parents, loved ones, or the poor and unfortunate. They rationalize that their money was earned through hard work, so why should they share it with others? They believe that everyone should enjoy the fruits of their labor, and that creating a dependent mindset is wrong. As human beings, we must understand that there are times when emergency relief is needed, and there are times when long-term assistance is required. Both situations have value. The key is that the person performing the charitable act understands the nature of the situation to provide appropriate help. For instance, in an emergency, teaching someone how to make a living might be too late. They could die before learning the skill. Emergency relief is like giving a fish. In such cases, immediate action is necessary, such as providing food, clothing, and blankets to those affected by natural disasters to help them overcome their difficulties. Long-term assistance, like giving a fishing rod, is akin to teaching a person to fish. If we give them a fish, they will eat it and then starve again. Long-term assistance means providing the means for self-sufficiency. Social welfare centers in Vietnam today choose this approach, allowing residents to participate in vocational contracts, although the dropout rate is currently over 55%. Remaining residents can fully support themselves with legal work. To ensure right livelihood, the Buddha advises in the Anguttara Nikaya, Book 4, page 283, that there are 4 forms of decline, and falling into them means losing the future, decadence. The first form of decline is debauchery, meaning indulgence in depravity. This applies to both men and women, or those who have not identified their gender. The bankruptcy rate is particularly high among those with gender identity issues because they must financially support their partners to satisfy their sexual needs. Financial harm often leads to negative health effects and even life-threatening consequences. Kings in the past often died young due to debauchery or lost their kingdoms because they spent all their time and energy on extravagant amusements instead of focusing on political, economic, or cultural matters. The second form of decline is drinking. In Vietnam, there is a trend known as morning bitterness, evening spiciness, meaning drinking coffee in the morning and alcohol in the evening. Taverns have sprung up everywhere to meet the increasing demand for these toxic substances. India strictly regulates this issue. Alcohol is only sold between 5:30 p.m. and 7 p.m. 2 or more people gather to drink in public, they are fined. Without drinking companions, one's desire to drink is limited, reducing the social harm caused by alcohol. India has to enforce such strict measures because it is a poor country. If alcohol in taverns were as widespread as in Vietnam, society might collapse. In reality, to improve society, we need to think beyond the immediate. Alcohol primarily serves men's needs, and when they drink to the point of intoxication, they cannot take care of themselves, let alone their families. Wives and children are unhappy, and with alcohol constantly lurking in their husbands, how can family happiness be ensured? It's essential to understand that the family is the fundamental unit of society. When each unit is rotten, the entire society's survival is in jeopardy. The best solution is to strictly regulate the production and importation of alcohol, and perhaps even ban it entirely. Instead, we should focus on developing righteous industries that benefit the nation's growth. Doctors tell us that the taxes collected from the alcohol and tobacco industries don't even cover 1% of the government's investment in healthcare facilities to treat diseases caused by alcohol, tobacco, and drugs. Costs far outweigh the benefit. Government funding for healthcare is consistently stretched thin, not to mention the expenses borne by families and patients. There is also the issue of signing contracts over drinks, where people lose their judgment about what is right and wrong, legal or illegal. The third form of decline is gambling, including stock trading. While stocks are considered a legal profession, they share some of the harmful characteristics of gambling, significantly damaging financial stability. The global financial crisis was triggered by the collapse of Wall Street, directly affecting the G7 group, with the United States at the center, and extending its impact to G8 and G20. We must understand that 90% of the world's economic output is controlled by the G20, with Wall Street as the hub. Stock trading is a large-scale form of gambling. We have witnessed scenes where billionaires became beggars in just one day due to market fluctuations. Today, many people, instead of using their money to invest in production or services that create and sustain jobs, choose to invest in the stock market. While gambling is a pathway to poverty, stock trading is its grandmaster. Of course, some people become wealthy through it by hiring experts to manage their investment. Usury is another form of gambling. People turn to it when they can't repay debts and have no assets left to offer as collateral to the bank. They have no choice but to seek out loan sharks. This practice is cruel to borrowers and risky for lenders. If someone has lost everything, who can guarantee they will repay their loans? The fourth form of decline is bad company. Bad company can mean many things. Friends who indulge in excess, violate the law, lead a debauched life, do nothing productive, or gossip endlessly. Associating with such people only brings trouble, leading to a life filled with suffering. Ambition. Anyone seeking to establish a righteous career must avoid these 4 forms of decline. The Digha Nikaya, Book 3, page 221, advises, first, everyone must have ambition, also known as the base of desire. Term desire here is translated as ambition. There is an Indian fable that goes as follows. A man has a donkey that loves to play. The owner devises a plan, placing a bundle of hay in front of the donkey. With a signal, the owner entices it to move forward. The donkey approaches the hay, unaware that the distance between it and the hay remains constant. The owner reaches his destination. Ambition is far more attractive than a bundle of hay. Without ambition, one loses the will to advance, becoming fatalistic, content with mediocrity, leading a meaningless and boring life. Contentment and mediocrity are strictly forbidden in Buddhism. Buddhism encourages a spirit of striving. Furthermore, one must strive to improve, hoping to have enough resources and intellect to help others. Buddhism encourages us to overcome adversity, helping us cultivate faith and determination to achieve our ambitions. Before the Buddha meditated for 49 days, he vowed, rather than leaving this spot without attaining enlightenment, I would rather let my body be crushed and my bones destroyed. This was the Buddha's ambition. The symbolic language describing the Buddha crossing the river before reaching the Bodhi tree includes the act of placing his bowl in the river, saying that if his vow were to be fulfilled, the bowl would float upstream against the current. The bowl floated upstream. The river, 1 kilometer wide and several dozen kilometers long, was not deep during the Buddha's time. There are no records of its depth. However, today, the river is only filled with water during the rainy season, August, September, and October. The rest of the year, the water is shallow, barely reaching one's knees, making it possible to walk across. We can infer that the river wasn't deep during the Buddha's time. Shallow rivers do not have strong currents. The starting and ending points of the river are at the same altitude, so logically, the bowl could not have floated upstream. Thus, the story's message is about the strength of determination, ambition, and the Buddha's ideals, which could even make a bowl float upstream, overcoming all obstacles. They wanted to convey this through metaphorical images and symbolic language, turning a simple text into a masterpiece. Right livelihood must be established on ambition. Patriots who accept hardship and wander in search of their country's independence possess ambition. This applies to any field. Without ambition, there is no development. However, it's important to understand that ambition is different from rationalism. Rationalism relies on subjective values, lacks thorough consideration and objectivity, has no value in cause, effect, or achievement, and is more like daydreaming than ambition. In Buddhism, the symbol of the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara with 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes represents collective strength, collective love, and collective contribution. However, if all these loving hands lack wisdom, the guiding eye, and act based on subjective thoughts, emotions, or personality, the result is helping people to their detriment. In terms of policy application, the body represents policy because it needs consistency, with many people working together to implement it, symbolized by the many hands. Conversely, when there are many policies but few implementers, policy is unlikely to succeed. Each hand in the Avalokiteshvara icon holds a different object, signifying that each person is responsible for a specific task, ensuring that the right people are assigned to the right jobs, avoiding overlap, and respecting each other's authority, ensuring the policy's success. Diligence, in Buddhist terminology, practice is called diligence. Diligence means continuous effort without interruption, never giving up halfway, remaining steady, undeterred by great challenges, and calmly overcoming obstacles with confidence. It includes exertion and industriousness, pair of virtues. Many people are industrious but not exerting themselves, like in a marathon, where the final sprint requires more effort than the initial or middle phases. There are times when we must adopt a marathon-like spirit, combining both methods of sustained effort and short, intense bursts of speed. Diligence includes determination and unwavering commitment to Buddhist activities. Some people engage in Buddhist work, but when discussing it with others, those who don't share the same dedication may discourage them, leading to unfinished tasks. Misconceptions such as vows to become a bodhisattva or reciting the Lotus Sutra causing negative karma are entirely wrong. Performing these tasks doesn't bring negative karma or misfortune. On the contrary, they should improve one's karma. Those engaged in Buddhist activities must understand that adversity is always temporary. Just as wind or external factors cause waves to rise on the surface of a lake or ocean, the water remains calm beneath. Those involved in Buddhist work must recognize the transient nature of adversity and maintain their determination to achieve their goals. Many people, deeply affected by the financial crisis, lose all faith in life, leading to destructive behavior, madness, or complacency due to the pain of seeing their hard-earned wealth vanish. These are examples of weak, timid, and demoralized individuals. Responsibility in Buddhism, intention is understood as responsibility and commitment. A responsible person, even without being asked or reminded, still fulfills their duties with a sincere heart. These individuals understand the importance of Buddhist activities and strive to do as much as possible with joy and a sense of contribution. Irresponsible individuals only work when they feel like it. If they don't, they neglect their duties. They fear strong management, but when left unchecked, they shirk their responsibilities, steal time from their jobs, and still expect to be paid. Commitment means focusing all one's will on the field one has chosen, with a firm resolve to succeed and not allow failure, leading to high levels of concentration. People with a strong sense of responsibility bring honor to wherever they go, achieving great success. Success in any field requires these two qualities. High levels of concentration help minimize work accidents, traffic accidents, and maximize job efficiency. Concentration in research and experimentation leads to valuable inventions. For practitioners, concentration helps those following the Pure Land School achieve single-mindedness, while those in Zen and Vajrayana Buddhism can reach deep meditation or attain harmony in the three mysteries. Anyone with a high level of concentration has a better chance of success. Inspection. Inspection includes professions such as auditing, quality control, quality assurance, quality development, and quality maintenance. Inspection always works in two directions. Almost all industries require customer feedback on their products and services to address shortcomings. Managers must also carry out internal inspections to check whether their products, services, processes, or procedures meet standards, identify areas for improvement, and ensure lasting reputation. Today, the Vietnamese government is calling for Vietnamese people to use Vietnamese products. Without a thorough inspection process, relying solely on patriotism will never succeed. Consumers don't make purchasing decisions based on patriotism alone. They consider factors such as quality, reasonable prices, attractive designs, and reliable services. For Vietnamese consumers to choose Vietnamese products, Vietnamese manufacturers must update and adhere to WTO standards. Without inspections and relying only on patriotism, the effectiveness of such calls will be low and short-lived. We must complete our legal framework to create favorable conditions for investment, manage industries, ensure a steady supply of raw materials, nurture the labor market, and simplify processes and procedures to avoid the joke of making bureaucracy the main task. True patriotism also develops based on these solutions. A nation's economy that doesn't rely on domestic production cannot grow strong. Such a nation will forever be economically dependent on foreign powers. This highlights the importance of inspection. Many Vietnamese companies lack vision. They sell their products without believing that customers will return. They always try to maximize profits from each customer. China's trade is notorious for its deceptive practices. Tourists to China are advised to bargain in markets, as prices are often inflated tenfold. Electronic products should be avoided as they are often fake. China, the most populous country in the world, is also the biggest violator of copyright. Without timely inspections, economic collapse is inevitable. Many are forced to continue working despite knowing that anything they produce will soon be counterfeit, indicating severe copyright violations. Currently, Buddhist publishing houses in Vietnam are among the places where copyright violations are most rampant. For example, they order 2,000 copies of a scripture book, paying a higher price to avoid taxes. A 100-page book that sells for 11,000 VND in the market costs about 6,000 VND to print, with a 7% tax to the government. Additionally, there are costs for design, layout, and salaries. Actual cost of a 100-page book ranges from 7,000 to 8,000 VND. When sold in the market, 35% goes to distributors, and investors make about 20% profit if all copies are sold. However, publishing houses often bypass investors, paying 40% to the printer and keeping 60% for themselves, resulting in unfair treatment for the original investors. The same applies to music tapes, lecture CDs, and all other Buddhist products that suffer from copyright violations. Often, the original investor is a temple, so no one files a lawsuit. We need a robust legal framework to protect the legitimate rights of those who own original ideas. Merit in establishing a career. Some professions are legal, but lack ethics, causing significant harm to others' wisdom and long-term happiness. We must use Buddhist standards to exclude these unethical professions, ensuring long-term benefits for many generations, such as developing wisdom, promoting ethical living, and upholding responsibility, all of which guarantee a peaceful life. This is the profound meaning of establishing a righteous career, which goes far beyond merely making a living and ensuring material happiness. We must always remember that material wealth is not the most important thing. More valuable than material wealth is wisdom. When one has ethics, wisdom, and material wealth grows, work stabilizes, and long-term credibility is established, one is better equipped to survive difficult circumstances. Merit acts as a protector, like the Dharma protectors, bodhisattvas and Buddhas, guarding us. No Buddha protects those who are lazy or engage in unethical profession. Only by accumulating merit can one live happily even amid economic turmoil. Those with merit, even if they lose material possessions, remain calm and resilient. Those without merit will collapse. Even among people selling the same product or investing in the same field, some succeed more than others, demonstrating the difference in merit. Establishing a career based on merit is the most stable and secure path. Building a career on deception leads to success and failure at different times, happiness now, suffering and regret later. The value of establishing a righteous career. Only those who live according to right livelihood have the opportunity to realize the remaining 8 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. Without right livelihood, there can be no right view, and vice versa. Those who live unrighteously can only have wrong thoughts, because their thoughts are based on greed, hatred, and delusion. Those who live unethically must use deception to sell their goods and services, even disguising themselves as powerful and virtuous when they are not, sometimes even resorting to violence, killing, and retaliation. Such individuals cannot achieve right effort because their efforts are wrong. Wrong effort cannot lead to right mindfulness. Their minds are filled with guilt, fear, torment, and confusion, preventing them from attaining concentration. Establishing a righteous career silently determines the remaining factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. To enter and succeed on the path of right action, one must first establish a righteous career. Establishing a righteous career allows one to accumulate merit, avoiding attachment to that merit, and share it with those who need it. For monastics, right livelihood means wisdom, compassion, selflessness, altruism, and equanimity. These qualities are the pillars of monastic life.